long intro when you back home looking at your recordings. You actually want to just see what the work is. And this chapter, something that you probably haven't thought of yet, but this time next year, you're going to be right in the middle of it, because you will be job hunting. For those who haven't started yet. I'm going through this process now because my son's finishing his studies, and obviously you are searching for opportunities. So this chapter is relevant on many levels, from the point of the course itself. Up to this point, we've dealt with many aspects, and the module's name is Sales and Operations. We've done a lot of sales, and now obviously, and we'll still keep our sales caps on, but when it comes to the operations of a business, if you want your business to be successful, and one of the internal environmental factors and forces that we have identified that is important for the success of your business is knowing how much resources you have and how much resources you need. And with resources, we're not just talking about buildings and offices and machinery and delivery trucks and equipment. We're talking about human resources as well. And this is where this particular chapter is very relevant, because there are certain basics that we might know or that we might not know. If we do know it, it doesn't mean that we are implementing it correctly or that we are staying with what is current. Because now, 10, 15 years ago, people opened the newspapers and there were 5, 6, 7, 10 pages of jobs that's advertised. And it was all categorized as well: sales, marketing, engineering, catering. So you knew which section you have to go to search if you are looking for a sales position. Nowadays, people register themselves on different platforms. LinkedIn is one of them that's very popular. And also, when you are searching for jobs yourself, you start with obviously, if you have a contact, or your parents have a contact, or you impress the people when you did your job shadowing. That's usually a start. People go online. They go to Careers24, and there are so many job websites that advertised, and constantly. When I was retrenched 4 years ago, that's exactly where I went. I went on site and I registered, and still up to today, because I haven't closed it, they keep on sending me. I get at least 5 emails every day informing me of positions similar to the one that I was actually looking for, and the availability, which is basically where people start nowadays. But there are obviously, we need to realize why this whole process of recruitment is so important. And the reasons mainly being the ones that you see on the screen. The fact that salespeople nowadays, if you want your sales force to be effective, you need to find the right people. You need to find people with the right qualities. Yes, it is a given that once you have graduated from a college or university, you've obtained your qualification, you have a very good foundation on which to build. The employers who are recruiting, who's looking for new staff, they know that you are equipped with the basic skills. They're not going to hire you and then say, there we go. You've studied, now do the job. They will send you on training as well. They will train you into the ways of which that particular company operates. That's why it falls into the sales and operations module specifically. Quality of salespeople. You are going to, number 2, find the best people are obviously more expensive. You can, and companies have different philosophies when it comes to that. Some companies say, you know what, I'd much rather have 5 people that I can upskill in and train to the level I want them at a cheaper rate than employ 2 people who are costly, experienced, and pretty much rather set in their particular in their particular ways of doing things. So it's sometimes it's like we hear that the coaches of football teams, your hockey teams, your netball teams, your rugby teams, they keep on telling us that they are looking to find that perfect balance between experienced players, because skill is not the issue. Everybody has the same skill, but some people are better at doing the job because they have more experience. They've applied those skills, they've made their mistakes, paid their school fees, so to speak, and they are ready to actually to do well, and they do well, but they are now also brought in or have inherited a sort of additional responsibility, and that is to help with the new recruits, for them to find their feet and for them to not repeat the same mistakes that they have made. And that's the importance of having a balance between an experience, which obviously very costly in the a member of a sales team, but also a good blend with inexperienced youngsters who are very enthusiastic to learn and to make their mark. Finding that balance, I think, is what is important in any business for their operations to be most efficient. Because if you have too many experienced, well-established people in your sales staff, it could lead to lethargy. It could mean that they are so set in their ways that they actually miss opportunities. If you're too inexperienced, it might result in you making too many mistakes because you don't have that experience yet. You still have to make those mistakes to learn and gain the experience. So neither one of those extremes work. Finding that balance is important, because sales is it's not just the salary that you pay the person at the end of the month. There's many additional expenses, because salespeople are not necessarily always office bound. It means that there are a lot of traveling costs and expenses that and accommodation, out of office expenses that makes up a sales budget, so to speak. Another important determinant for success is obviously training and motivation. That's one of the other reasons. We know that that it is important not just to find and recruit the right staff. It's also important to upskill them. That's where the training part comes in, to upskill them so they stay current with what's happening in the industry when it comes to their skills. No business can afford to send their staff on 2-3 weeks of training or take a 6-month study leave so they can actually upskill themselves. That is done as after hours during their normal working time. But again, it's an additional cost that is incurred, and you have to reward your staff correctly and sufficiently. People are often different things motivate them, motivate different people. We'll see some different approaches in that regard in this and the following chapter specifically. But not everybody is motivated equally with a higher salary or just more money. Initially, maybe that is a strong motivation, but then you get to the point where there's family, and family time and time off is almost more valuable than that extra 500 Rand or 1,000 Rand that you're going to get in that month. Again, to find that balance is, I think, where the greatest challenge lie, but it's also where the biggest reward is for a business who gets it right. Let's go through the different. You'll see I've marked it steps 1 to 5, the different steps in the recruitment process. Obviously, you will start by drafting a job description. You have to, before you advertise the position, find and know exactly what this person needs to do and obviously what kind of specifications you require, level of qualification, and other additional skills that's necessary. We'll deal with each of these 5 steps individually during this chapter. Then you have to identify sources of recruitment. Are you going to recruit in-house? Are you going to advertise a position? Are you going to try and fill the position from within your company first? Are you going to give it to an agency and say, listen, we don't want to get involved in this. There's the information, send it to an agency, recruitment agencies, there's many of them, let them do the entire job, because that's what they specialize in. Then also you have to design, because that's what, either if you do it yourself or if you outsource it to an agency, a proper application form. Nowadays, everything is done online, or not everything, but 99% of applications are done online. So once you're in a database, that information remains secure, but it remains in that database. So even if you don't get the job, it doesn't mean that you might not get an opportunity in 6 months' time, because you remain in the database. We saw that earlier on with database management and why that is important, that we update that all the time. You will, once you've gone through this process, get to an interviewing stage where obviously your shortlisted candidates will be interviewed. I suppose nowadays, and even before the pandemic, a lot of it happens online too, because if somebody works in Gauteng, for instance, but they apply and they've made the shortlist for a job opportunity in Cape Town, they're not necessarily always going to fly down to Cape Town. They might for a follow-up interview, but the initial interviews can happen online via Skype or Zoom or Teams. And then obviously, once you have done your interviewing has been completed, what additional information is necessary? What additional test maybe is required? You need to maybe do a psychometric test, for instance, with the candidate. There's a whole process, and obviously planning on bringing that person in and training them, doing a tour of the facilities, for instance, meeting all the new staff members. That's all part of the whole process of recruitment and selecting. It's not just getting the person, it's selecting the right person, and then obviously bringing them into the new business in the best possible way. Right. We have, as I said, enough time. I'm pretty much, I think I'm just going to try and complete step number 1, which will be the next 2 slides. Firstly, the first step in the process of recruitment and selection, we said, was to prepare the job description. Obviously, this is where everything starts. If you get it wrong here and you leave out certain important information, you might get the wrong recruits that apply. You might eventually realize your mistake, and that doesn't appear truly professional if you make those kind of mistakes. But it should have a title. It should have a summary of what your duties and responsibilities are. People want to know who they report to. You have to be specific if there's certain technical requirements needed for a specific position. You see in positions that's advertised, you must at least be able to show 2 to 3 years experience on certain software packages, for instance. You must be able to have a N5 technical qualification, depending on what the job obviously is that's advertised. Where will you be positioned? Are you going to be working in a specific area? If we take the Western Cape and the Metropole, if you live in Somerset West, you need to know that if you get this job, you will either have to move or you will have to find reliable transport if you don't have it, because you will be working in the southern suburbs, for instance, in Greenpoint or in Rondebosch or in Newlands, wherever. But your location, and then obviously when you're in sales, and we'll obviously keep the sales theme to this whole process. Salespeople are going to cover a specific geographical area. So it might not mean that you have to relocate. It might mean that your office is in a different area, but because of your sales responsibilities or the job responsibilities in point number 2, it's not necessary for you to be in the office every day. That is also as a result of the pandemic has changed now. Businesses have reduced their sort of office space because a lot of people are working from home and they're working from different venues. Again, depending on the specific position that's advertised. But when it comes to sales, definitely that would be one of the aspects. How much freedom do you have? Your degree of autonomy. How much freedom is there for you to actually complete your work? I know that my previous employer, for instance, said, you know what you have to do in a week. It's in your job description. If you're done by Wednesday, I'm not going to look over your shoulder and say there's still 2 days left. Some people work harder, some people work faster. As long as I have my report every Friday afternoon, that's it. So you need to know what those boundaries are. Okay, because your job description is the blueprint for what your specific requirements of a new staff member is. Right, final for the day. Summary of your personal specifications. What personal information about the candidate do you need? Physical requirements. Okay, you need to make sure that if you're in sales, that your appearance, there must be a dress code or guidelines at least. You don't want somebody with a stud in their tongue, so it impedes their speech. What qualifications have they got? What's the minimum qualification? You need to be sure that you include that. Is this an individual who can work rather independently because this particular position requires that? How mature is the individual? A lot of these information that we see on the screen is going to probably surface in the interview. It's very difficult to determine this because everybody puts their best qualifications and their highest qualification and their best skills in the CV. But once you get beyond that stage, when it comes to the interview, obviously it will be valuable. A lot of these abilities, like your appearance, like how you conduct yourself, the confidence that you show, how well you communicate. Those are all things that usually only come out when the interview is conducted. Right. Personal circumstances, married, single, divorced, whatever. These are all things that's very, very important. That is what we're going to do today, Stephanie. Tomorrow, I think, tomorrow I said to the group that we probably are not going to have class, but I will still be available. When the class starts, I will still be online. Okay, so for students who believe that and tomorrow we have the 7th and 8th period, I think. Yes, 12:35. I'll be online for 12:35. I'm not sure if anybody. I'm pretty sure nobody will be on campus tomorrow because you're writing tomorrow, and they're probably just going to stay in and prepare. But that's it, Stephanie. Do you have any questions from what we've done so far today, or anything else?
No, sir, I'm good. I think this was the basic part, I think.
Good, thank you very much. Yeah, keep well.